Lavrov has come back to life and is threatening everyone again.
He stated that he is ready for a personal meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, but only on one condition. The discussion of the war in Ukraine must take Moscow's interests into account.
Is Putin on his deathbed? Just look at the bazooka arms of the Kremlin maniac.
Swollen, unnaturally smooth, and as if pumped up.
Meanwhile, Trump is dozing off in the Oval Office. This is not a panacea, it's not a golden bullet. Ukraine has been without American weapons for over a month. The shutdown has suspended sales, but it won't last much longer.
It looks like we're very close to ending the shutdown.
An anniversary for Russia. A new package of sanctions from Ukraine and the EU is already in the works.
Together with our partners in the European Union, we are already preparing the 20th package of sanctions. We expect the contents of this package to be prepared over the course of a month.
Putin is masterfully driving the economy into the ground. There's no money but hang in there.
Things are bleak for the real sector because money is expensive. And of course, in this situation, there can be no growth.
The president of Syria in the White House. The meeting with Trump was successful.
It is also implied that the president of Syria will sign an agreement under which he joins the US coalition.
Well, Putin really shocked everyone with his appearance. Swollen hands, lame legs. Now, indeed, various experts are studying his hands. What illness could the Crimean dictator have? We will talk about this as well. Besides that, Kadyrov continues to surprise. He got about 100 of his relatives' jobs in the Chechen government. Lavrov woke up after rumors about his resignation and said that he would meet with Marco Rubio any day now. And also, friends, we'll talk about how convicts and real psychopaths are returning from the front and terrorizing Russians themselves on Russian territory. There's a short segment about this. I'll be waiting for you in the studio where we'll discuss everything in detail with an expert. Let's go.
What could be scarier for Russians than sending their own son or husband to the front in Ukraine? That's right, if he comes back from there.
In St. Petersburg, a man who returned from the war is terrorizing his apartment building, threatening his neighbors and throwing some kind of imitation grenades from his balcony.
Very few people want to live on the same street or worse in the same building as these so-called heroes of the special military operation. As a rule, these newly minted veterans were already notorious outcasts before the war, and after returning from the front, they completely let themselves go. Theft, killing their own drinking buddies, rape and robbery have become everyday occurrences for Russian special military operation veterans back in civilian life.
There's a saying among our people. There's no defense against a crowbar except another crowbar. And
for the Russian ex-cons, drug addicts and psychopaths returning from the war, that crowbar will be another quite tangible crowbar.
How to put this more delicately? The story with the sledgehammer.
It's hard to believe, but Russian propagandists are increasingly openly talking about wiping out their own soldiers. Z-bloggers are convinced that there's no place for participants of the special military operation in civilian life. The state isn't even considering bringing them back and helping them adapt to peaceful life.
All these people who have been given weapons, who have been through the war, many of them have a very serious criminal past, and something has to be done with these people.
Moreover, it's far from the best of the best who return from the war to civilian life. The new Putin military elite, as it's called in the bunker, is made up entirely of pardoned convicts.
I would really like to look into the eyes of the person who made the decision to use prisoners in combat operations, because this is a ticking time bomb. And
it will explode inside Russia itself. Or
maybe they're just idiots. That's also possible.
a significant portion of our contingent at this point already consists of people who, while in places of detention or under investigation, sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense. By doing so, they either avoid punishment from the court or they get released from camps and prisons. And they get the opportunity, as they say, to atone for their guilt with blood, but in reality, they get a chance to be free for a while, and possibly, if things go well, to later walk free, fully pardoned, maybe even with awards and so on.
The solution that the Kremlin has found is both brilliant and cruel at the same time. There are rumors that Putin simply gave the order not to let anyone return alive from the front. The Russian authorities want to send the most compliant convicts to Africa. As for the rest, following the good old Wagner PMC tradition, they are to be disposed of.
The first option is to send them somewhere in Africa. The second option is that overall they will be, how should I put it, dealt with more gently. The story with the sledgehammer.
At the same time, it is worth noting that such a proposal, which is increasingly voiced by Kremlin propagandists, seems to have received silent approval from the Russian population.
Because this is Russian Nazism. They get a thrill from death. It's the only thing that truly excites them.
A full-scale campaign against Russian contract soldiers returning from the special military operation has been launched on federal channels as well. They're around the clock, 24/7. They keep persuading people to sign a contract with the Ministry of Defense. But when it comes to the death rate at the front, the Kremlin has told them to keep quiet. For example, Russian propagandists cut out part of a broadcasted conversation between Putin and an 11-year-old girl who asked the president to bring her uncle back from the war.
And what would you like to do?
Right now, my uncle is at the front. He was wounded in the arm. He was in the hospital, but they aren't treating him at all. Now they're sending him out on a mission. I wish he could be transferred to a good hospital in Russia. I hope so.
Russian propaganda has received the command to go ahead. The Kremlin's mouthpiece has been tasked with going after their own soldiers.
And to pretend that you're not being beaten.
It seems Putin has gotten bored of playing war games with his old toy soldiers. So the bunker dweller gave the order to get rid of them.
Weakness is unacceptable because it creates temptation, the illusion that some issue with us can be resolved.
The endless video appeals from grief-stricken Russian mothers in despair, trying to find their children who have gone missing at the front, the pleas for help from wounded and abandoned contract soldiers left without medicine or medical care, and the complaints from mobilized troops about the unbearable conditions of service in the Russian army, all of this seems to have seriously gotten on Vladimir Vladimirovich's nerves. But instead of solving the problem, the bunker dweller chose to simply ignore it and issued an order to Russian propagandists to stop any discussion about the troubles in the Russian army.
It's just not needed. It's unnecessary and simply absurd.
Putin only needs soldiers on the battlefield. Outside of it, all these people become a threat to the Kremlin. Unprincipled and skilled with weapons, they could cause problems for the regime. Extra problems.
What can I say? The guys working in the swamps record everything precisely and hide nothing. The directive will be to send them home only in the most extreme cases. Only in the most extreme cases. And even then, only if, in other words, the directive is to scatter them wherever possible in any available place.
Those who refuse to be scattered will face only elimination.
Vyacheslav Maltsev is joining our broadcast, chairman of the National Committee for the Fight Against Putin. Vyacheslav, hello, we're glad to see you.
Hello.
So Lavrov has appeared on the line, and after rumors about his resignation and that he had fallen out of favor with Putin, he started saying that he would soon be meeting with Marco Rubio and that everything is just fine. Could you please tell us what is behind Lavrov's recent activity and whether there really will be a meeting between him and Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, as a reminder to our audience?
I think there will be. And I said right away that there was no talk of resignation for now. Yes, the missed Security Council meeting was taken as something very serious, but in reality, there was nothing serious about it except perhaps something related to Lavrov's health. Look, it's quite an interesting situation. The last time he appeared in public was probably on October 13th when he was discussing something with the Arabs. Then he disappeared, and on the 20th he had a phone conversation. On October 25th at that time, they mentioned that he was filming for a YouTube channel somewhere. And so he was in general reachable. In reality, well, filming for a YouTube channel could have happened at any time, and claiming that he was filming on the 25th was kind of done on purpose. It was necessary to, it was done in order to prove that he hadn't disappeared. I think there are two possibilities here. So the meeting on the 30th didn't take place either because Lavrov's health had actually worsened or because they pretended that his health had worsened. In other words, they took a kind of time out and said, well, the old man isn't feeling very well, so you guys hold off for now. We'll meet later. Seriously, though, I worked for quite a long time, 13 and a half years to be exact, serving in Russian government agencies. During this extended period, I was responsible for a variety of important tasks and duties that contributed to the daily operations of these organizations. And that type, like Lavrov, I know people like that. There are a lot of people of that type. The chairman of the Saratov Regional Duma, Churikov, was exactly like that. Overweight, a smoker, a heavy smoker. People like that don't live to be 65. They didn't make it to that age in the Soviet Union, nor do they in Russia. So for that type, a standard death is from a heart attack. But now, you know, medical treatments have changed. There are different procedures, surgeries, bypass operations, and so on. A person who smokes might somehow with difficulty, well, someone who smokes that much, not just smokes, but smokes a lot, might just barely make it to 75. But Lavrov is already 75, you see? So with that kind of lifestyle, he should be about to leave the stage simply because of his health. I want to emphasize again, doctors might be able to keep him going for a while longer, but it won't be for long. And everyone understands that perfectly well. So this is definitely not some kind of resignation. It's either Lavrov's own poor health or they're citing his poor health as an excuse to buy time.
Okay. Let's talk about something else now. It's interesting. Valery Zaluzhny also commented on this meeting. But here's what I want to ask you. So he said that Russian diplomacy as a tool of influence in Ukraine, in the war against Ukraine, works very, very, very effectively. Now, according to Lavrov, there is currently a tactic of stalling, formal invulnerability, and a rhetorical shift. I want to ask you, how do you assess what the Russian Federation is currently doing with the United States as a set of tools? We said that there was some kind of turning point when Trump changed his rhetoric and realized that blackmail should be met with blackmail as well. Is everything now sliding back, returning to its previous roots, or do the Russians have some new strategy towards the United States? How do you see it?
There is no new strategy. In fact, there is no strategy at all. There is just this tactic, fool everyone, and that's it. It's basically the tactic of any bureaucrat. They're all government officials and have worked in this system their whole lives. They operate like army veterans about to be discharged. Another day has passed, and to hell with it. That's how it is for all of them. In other words, the longer they can drag things out, the more changes will happen. People who aren't in the know think that changes are happening because of their actions. And in reality, it just happens because time is passing. That's why they drag things out. It's the best option for them. Trump got angry, showed off a bit. What, is he going to attack them? No, he won't attack. Besides, maybe he just pretended to be angry. Maybe he wasn't angry at all. Maybe he has other priorities like money or carrying out some plans that we might not even know about, including financial ones. So everything is going as it always has. I mean, look, when people say Trump, at first he had this attitude, then he changed, and now he sees things differently. But how do you know he really felt that way, then changed, and then changed again? Not at all. He just said he felt that way, and then something changed. But in terms of actions, his actions have always been the same. They never changed. Only the words changed. Trump is a showman. Putin is a government official of rather low rank, and each basically operates within the system they know how to work in. Trump is a businessman. He makes money and acts accordingly. Putin tries to remain in power for as long as possible, consistently attempting to preserve his authority, and also tries to protect his close friends and associates and so on. So everyone is just doing their own thing, and that's the only way to look at it, nothing else. And I definitely have never seen any serious strategic plans from either Putin or Trump or in their governments. If serious strategic plans are being made anywhere, it's definitely not in those offices.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine Today. Join us now.
I understand you. Let's talk about something else now. There are some interesting news coming in about Kadyrov, This is already the third generation, essentially, that is coming to power as well. For example, journalists have counted 96 of his relatives whom Kadyrov has placed in positions of authority. Can we say that this kind of party policy is in fact destroying the Russian vertical of power from within or not? And how will they behave at a critical moment if one comes? What do you think about this kind of nepotism that flourishes in the Chechen Republic?
It's not just in the Chechen Republic. Putin has built a neo-feudal system, and that's exactly what it entails. That family ties play the main role, along with certain vassal relationships and so on. So what is Kadyrov doing? From the perspective of his own power, Kadyrov is acting absolutely correctly. That is, he has a feudal regime, he is a satrap of the neo-feudal system, so he puts his relatives everywhere, including trying to place them in leadership positions, even in the metropolis, so that they can exert influence and help there in the corridors of power. And in Chechnya itself, it's clear why this is necessary. If there are others from different tiers, those who are, let's say, further from him and more critically minded, then sooner or later they will want to overthrow him. Sooner or later they will want to change the established order. Although we've heard that there was some attempt, or at least a hint of some kind of coup that his own relatives were contemplating. In other words, even his own people are fed up with him. That's usually how it goes. I think that right next to Putin, there are also plenty of people who want to overthrow him, regardless of what might happen to them. They already hate him so much that they're willing to sacrifice anything just to get rid of him. I'm sure it's the same with Kadyrov, the exact same situation.
Got it, regarding that. Now, I'd also like to talk about the meeting between Trump and Orban. If you could briefly share your takeaways. There, the Prime Minister of Hungary, as everyone understands, agreed with Trump on the indefinite exemption of Hungary from American sanctions on Russian oil. But the main question is, was Orban able not to recruit, but let's say, to appeal to Trump enough so that he wouldn't destroy this bridge between him and Putin? Please explain this.
Trump likes me so much. Trump loves dictators. He loves all sorts of crooks. It's just in his nature, and that's why Orban is his best friend. Yes, it's clear what Orban wanted from Trump. He needs help with the elections. Everything is falling apart for him, and it's obvious that he and his party will lose next year, so he needs something extraordinary to save the situation, because his party is losing. He needs oil, the ability to trade that oil, not just to get it for Hungary, but to profit from it, because Orban, well, doesn't act selflessly. That's absolutely clear. On top of everything else, he needs money for the elections. And I think that's what he was talking about, asking for help to make it possible for them to earn a certain amount of money for the elections. I think he presented the scheme. That's actually why he came. What is it that interests Trump as well? Trump is interested in only three things: money, money, and money. Nothing else interests him at all. And as an addition, he's interested in support within NATO. Again, it's about money because NATO buys American weapons. And here, Orban is very important. A hypothetical meeting may have been discussed. In Budapest, well, that's more of a third thing. Everyone there was interested in their own thing. And this meeting with Orban is not the most remarkable, meaning it's not, so to speak, an epoch-making meeting. There was a truly more epoch-making, groundbreaking meeting in Trump's office quite recently, as you might recall or remember. So representatives of the Turkic world came there, remember, that is Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and additionally the Tajiks, although Tajiks are not Turkic. It's clear that this is Erdogan's idea. It's clear that Erdogan is trying to oppose China. It's clear that Aliyev, who is Erdogan's minion, and Azerbaijan, so to speak, is a satrapy of Turkey, now want to get into NATO in order to defend themselves with NATO's help. Although, of course, they themselves are not going to actually support any bloc agreements. They will pretend that they support them. They need NATO to protect them, but they don't want to protect anyone themselves within NATO. And within NATO, as you've seen, the contradictions are such that they've already become bigger than those outside. So this is a kind of block instrument for the last day, so to speak, these days. We can see that right now, of course, Erdogan is skillfully manipulating everything. He's playing with four hands together with Aliyev. Aliyev is making deals with China. Aliyev is opposing Putin. Aliyev is negotiating with Israel. So honestly, everything is kind of up in the air for me right now.
Vyacheslav, sorry to interrupt you, but if you could please take a moment to finish your thought, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up this discussion. Okay, that's it. We just had a little bit of an audio overlap. Yes, Vyacheslav, if you could please finish your thought.
Ben Philippe is negotiating with Israel, but as you saw, the Istanbul prosecutor's office has accused almost 40 Israeli officials, including top leaders headed by Netanyahu, of genocide and so on. In other words, Erdogan is now pursuing a very serious policy that will end in an interesting way. This particular segment in the White House is intriguing. The meeting with the Turks, the development of the idea of the Turkic world and the great Turan, since China wants all of Russia, while the Turkic world wants only a part of Russia. And this is the stumbling block.
Thank you. Vyacheslav Maltsev, chairman of the National Committee for the Fight Against Putin, was on Ukraine today. All the best, Vyacheslav. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Death to the tyrant, power to the people. Goodbye. Good luck.